Canada in the north. It's really good to be with you and see all of your smiling faces in the nice rain today, but I'm just really honored and blessed to be here with you to stand in solidarity with the people of Kentucky that are dealing with mountaintop removals. I come from a small community that's been impacted by one of the biggest industrial developments on the face of the planet. It's called the Alberta tar sands. Has anybody heard of it?
Yeah.
All right, just checking. So, I've seen these pictures of mountaintop removal, and, sad to say that they look eerily reminiscent and very similar to the pictures and the mines that I see back home in the tar sands. And it makes my heart really sad to see those types of pictures, to know that people are being impacted the same way that we are back home. So, where I come from, mountains are sacred. Mountains are places where people go to think, to reflect, for more peace, for understanding. And that's what people in these hills did for thousands of years. Thousands of years that Indigenous peoples have gone and prayed to these mountains, in these mountains, and to understand how what we do to the earth, we do to ourselves. And, I think more and more people are beginning to recognize that. I think more and more people are beginning to feel that deep down in our hearts. And what we're starting to see back home is that our watersheds are also becoming polluted. Our air is also becoming contaminated. We're seeing, mines the size of entire cities in Alberta. Our landscape is drastically changing. From a once pristine, beautiful, intact boreal forest to a toxic and industrial landscape. Animals and fish have become sick. The caribou are listed as a threatened species in Alberta, and they are predicted to disappear in my lifetime because of the tar sands. It's shame. Shameful. Shame. People are no longer safe to harvest traditional medicines, to pick berries, because they're scared that the land is contaminated. People, young and old, have started to get cancers, really rare forms of cancers as well. And I know that people are experiencing that here as well. I come from a community until, this generation, my dad's generation before me, they live sustainably off the land. My dad's a hunter, and he's hunted my whole life growing up, and I grew up eating really good food, moose meat. It's just a very good, it's like bison. And my dad, just a couple years ago, he hunted a moose and he found 3 tumors in his carcass. And when we're seeing this happen to the wildlife, we know that's happening to the people as well. The air also was very clean and pure, I remember it, and now more and more as I go back home, it smells of pollution from tar sands operations. People are also developing respiratory illnesses like I know you have here, like emphysema, asthma, and elevated rates of cancers. And, more than any other time in history, the earth is being contaminated and destroyed at an unparalleled rate. From here in Appalachia to the tar sands, to shale, gas in other places. And then people are also, and animals are being sacrificed for the profit of very few people. And that's really unfortunate. For us of those in Canada who are experiencing the detrimental impacts of the tar sands, it is encouraging to be here today, to feel like you are standing with me as I am standing with you. So thank you. As a lot of you probably know, extracting oil from the tar sands is one of the most expensive ways to extract oil and one of the most environmentally destructive ways because it is very high in carbon, the carbon emissions, it's water intensive and is energy intensive, the most energy intensive way to produce oil on the planet. And if, I don't know if people know, but if the tar sands are fully exploited, the size of land that will be destroyed in Alberta is the size of the state of Florida alone. The size of England and Wales combined. It's a huge landmass that we're talking about. And this is where a lot of farmers live and a lot of Indigenous communities live. And many people are worried about this. And despite the fact that Canada prides itself on that it's a free and democratic society, where local communities are being respected and protected, where environmental regulations should be superior than anywhere else in the world, the sad fact is Canada is far from it, my friends. I'm very sorry to be a bearer of bad news and let you know that. But in reality, Canada, and more specifically the province of Alberta, has a lax and failing environmental monitoring system in place, which has very little to no enforcement when it comes to producing the tar sands. And that's why communities are feeling the massive brunt of this dirty fossil fuel. You know, where Indigenous communities have lived out for thousands of years on this land, and their rights should be constitutionally protected under Section 35 of the Canadian Constitution. It's not being protected, and their rights are not being protected or respected. But both Indigenous communities and farming communities are beginning to fear that the land will, in the future, become unlivable. People in the north are deeply concerned about what's happening to the earth, and how will the future generations live out on the land in the days of tar sands exploitation. On top of the major environmental concerns, there's also major catastrophic climate change concerns as well. The tar sands are the fastest growing source of greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. In a world where we're already dealing with climate change, the best way to deal with climate change is to stop mountaintop removal and to stop the tar sands. NASA scientist James Hansen has said the best way to deal with climate change is to leave the tar sands in the ground. And we must call for climate justice now, because we are actually living off the borrowed time of future generations.
Yes.
We must work together to get off fossil fuels and demand a just transition towards sustainable green energy. One where communities do not need to suffer, and one where communities can truly have green, good jobs, where communities can be healthy. Last year I saw over 1,000 people get arrested in Washington, D.C. And what was this for? The Keystone XL tar sands pipeline. To carry tar sands from Alberta to Texas. And, you know, I was extremely touched because it was such a momentous occasion. I never thought that I would see something like that at the White House. So, you know, Americans from all walks of life took courageous steps and a very selfless step to get arrested out there. And I know some of you are here with us today. And so, from the bottom of my heart, I say thank you to you. You know what? Governments and corporations try to make us feel small, but we are not small. We are many. We are many and we are powerful. And our voices, unified in one, make us a strong, powerful collective. And from Alberta to Eastern Kentucky, our struggles are the same. Today we stand here united. Today we are making decision makers that should be representing the people accountable. These decision makers need to be accountable to the people and not be protecting the profits of industries. That, in my opinion, is a shame. We have a chance to abandon this hopeless, reckless, fossil fuel-based paradigm and begin for a just transition. We need a just transition. Right now, the Senate is considering legislation to resurrect the Keystone XL pipeline, even though we've won twice. Shame! This would potentially override President Obama's decision to reject the pipeline, which he has already done because he's listened to the people. And instead, thank you, President Obama, for that. But instead, what the Senate is doing right now as we speak is trying to override this and greenlight the construction on this disastrous pipeline project. And there is no way to build the Keystone XL without exacerbating climate change and without accelerating tar sands extraction. So over the past 24 hours, over 500,000 people have signed on to a petition to petition the Senate that says, block this pipeline and do not revive this pipeline. So I ask you here today, as you stand in solidarity with me, and as I stand in solidarity with you, to call your Senator Mitch McConnell at number 202, if you guys want to take this down. On your phones, we're asking if people, yeah, you might have it on speed dial already, that's a good point. For those of you that don't, it's 202-224-2541, and come up to me and ask me for that. But I'm asking you as an act of solidarity to flood the phone lines today of the Senate to let them know you are not in agreement and you are in opposition of the Keystone XL pipeline. That's right. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Somebody else does.
And I hope that we can continue to work together as we stand in solidarity together and work in an effort to stop the destruction of all our homelands. Hi, thank you very much.